Is the worst over for Cardano? Recently, we have seen the market heat up with Bitcoin reaching a new all-time high, whilst ADA has actually been quite stagnant, trading sideways. In today's video, we're going to dive down into the charts for Cardano and take a look at exactly what is going on here with ADA and what could potentially be on the horizon next. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, do go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you won't miss another update. Right, with that said, done and out of the way, let's dive down into the charts. And we're going to start things off with the weekly, guys, and we're going to take a look at the weekly overview. I'm going to put timestamps down below, so if this is an overview that you're not interested in, you can skip ahead to the next section. Okay, so on this weekly chart, guys, we really want to review this impulsive 5 waves to the upside. This is something that we've been talking about for a while, and in the previous video that we did, we actually took a look at the trend of wave 2, the trend of wave 3, and the trend of wave 4. This was then showing us moving up with a Fibonacci trend-based extensions of the 4.236 at $11.31. Okay, so we have a nice theoretical top for this last leg of the bull run for Cardano, coming in at $11.31, so slightly north of that $10 range that we've been talking about on the channel for several months now. Ultimately, everything's looking pretty good from the structure that really started back in March of 2020. Basically, when the crypto crash came in, once the pandemic actually kind of got hold of the world, really, and we started to see this impulsive wave 1. That was followed up with this impulsive corrective wave to the downside for wave 2. Now, this actually kind of triggered in pretty much late July, beginning of August, bringing us down into these low areas where we were trading sideways and before kind of really getting into the swing of things in the new year. Now, this was the opportunity that me and Chris took to basically get in a huge position with ADA, right? Basically, this was a good opportunity to see that we had this impulsive wave to the upside. We pulled back and then we started to see the reversal, right? So about the kind of October, November time, we actually kind of got into Cardano really heavily and then confirmed it back by dollar cost averaging late December into January. And obviously we started to ride this to the upside for wave 3, where wave 3 actually kind of peaked around May. Many people are aware of this. It basically in May, Bitcoin pulled back from 65k to 28k. Obviously the entire crypto space was shook and basically loads of retail investors shaken out of the market, which is the kind of purpose of what was going on with Bitcoin at the time. Now, this was the low area of wave 4, right? And again, we had a triple tap down here at the dollar level. Okay, so basically week commencing the 17th of May, week commencing the 21st of June, and the week commencing the 19th of July, right? Those are the 3 kind of triple tap bottom areas for wave 4 before we really went nice and strongly into this 5th wave, the 5th last leg of the bull run to the upside. Now, what you can see on this weekly chart, guys, is that nothing moves in straight lines. You can see that there are corrections and sideways trades that can be frustrating at the time, but they lead you to new all-time highs eventually. And this is exactly what we're taking a look at. If you take a look at wave 2, that would have been very frustrating for many people who were not aware of what was going on, potentially getting shaken out after the gains that were made in wave 1. Only to see this thing pushed to the upside in a really significant way. Even in wave 3, we had sideways trades. There was about a 4 to 5 week period here before pushing back up in a really good way. And then before we even got to the top of wave 3, there was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 week sideways trade right here. Now we take a look at where we are. We're actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks into a sideways trade right now, really holding strongly above that $2.15. Now, I've been talking about $2.15 for quite a while, and I know this is very, very variable differences because obviously, depending on what timeline you look at, you get closed candles above or below that $2.15. Now, the weekly chart is the cheat sheet, guys. If you're ever in doubt, zoom out, because when you take a look at the weekly, we haven't closed below $2.15, which is absolutely key. The $2.15 area, guys, is the Fibonacci 786 area. Okay, so you take the high of wave 3 and the low of wave 4, put a fib on there, and basically that 786 is $2.15. Okay, so we know that $2.15 is a key area on the chart, which is why it's important that from a weekly standpoint, we don't close below it. And we've been holding it very, very well. We have obviously dipped below it on the hourly, but I think the daily has also stayed above, but I'll have to check that. Pretty much the only thing that's really important here is the weekly, the bigger, larger picture is intact, and that's ultimately where this 5th wave is going. At the moment, everything's pretty much well structured out, but obviously we are looking at waves within waves. So these 5 impulsive waves to the upside will be comprised of a 5 impulse wave to the upside for wave 1, a 5 impulse wave to the upside for wave 3, and 5 impulse waves for the wave 5. Okay, and then of course your ABC corrections for your wave 2 and wave 4, right? So what we're really looking at here, if I actually grab hold of my 1, 2, 3, is we actually have an impulsive wave 1 and impulsive wave 2, and now we're looking to try to trigger impulsive wave 3 before an impulsive wave 4 correction, and then topping us up above that $10 range. Now, ultimately, depending on if you're conservative or whether you are really optimistic, will depend on how you want to do your Fibonacci targets. Okay, so from a price target perspective on this weekly chart, $11.31 is based on the trends. Okay, so basically optimistic approach. Basically, look at your second wave correction, your impulsive third wave push to the upside, and your fourth wave correction, and you get that $11.31. But if we jump down into our daily view and we just expand this up, we've got a Fibonacci here that only used 2 anchor points. Okay, so we take into consideration, if we take into consideration just the top of wave 3 and the bottom of wave 4 with a fib, then actually what we're going to do is we're going to get a target of about $7.22 to 23 cents. Let me just find that. Yeah, $7. Just make sure I get this on the nose, guys, because I think I was a little bit out there. Let me just make sure we get you right. Don't want to miss anything. I think, yeah, there we go. Find this at the bottom here, and we'll put that on there. Okay, so this then should show us that kind of $7.22 area. Okay, so that 4.236 comes in at $7.22. Okay, so basically, depending on whether you want to be really pushing the boat or whether you'll be happy with a $7.22 kind of price target. Now, personally, I think a $7.22 area is really comfortable, and it's a way that I think most newbies should be kind of looking at the space. They want to protect their gains that are being made, but they don't want to risk potentially trying to time the top of the bull run. $7.22 would be a pretty interesting target for many, I do feel. For those who are more experienced traders or seasoned within the crypto space, heading out towards that $11 is something that you should be aiming for personally, in my opinion. With that being said, though, I think the progress for Cardano has been pretty good so far. We obviously have been buying up Cardano since it was incredibly cheap, right? And it's important that we also acknowledge that the progress for Cardano has been pretty good, specifically on this daily chart when we talk about over 14,000% from the bottom of March 2020 all the way through to the top of May 2021. Okay, it's 14,000%. To put that into context, Bitcoin was 1,600% for the same time period, and Ethereum was only 5,100%. So we've pretty much did achieve 5 times the profitability with ADA than we did ETH, right? So it's important that we acknowledge that significantly more gains have been made from Cardano than Ethereum or Bitcoin, right? But obviously Cardano has lagged behind other altcoins such as VeChain, Harmony One, Anchor, Matic, right? So it's important that we acknowledge, that there's still a lot of progress to happen here with ADA that hasn't actually come to an end. And I'm not concerned because I am looking at pretty good trends pushing up to the upside overall. So right now we can see on the daily chart that we have actually closed below the $2.15 on a couple of occasions, but on the weekly we actually have kept that nice and stable above $2.15 area, which is nice to see. This yellow box area, guys, is the Fibonacci 786 area at the top. In the middle of this is the 702, and at the bottom is a 618. So you can see that we've resonated really well with all of those key levels, both pushing up to the 786, retesting on the 702, and of course testing on the 618 as well. So that's looking pretty good. And we have good progress to be made up to the upside, right? Obviously, new all-time high that was achieved on the 2nd of September at $3.10. The consolidation right now, and we still haven't really kind of completed that cup and handle pattern that we've been talking about, which was actually targeting out that $4.40 area. I was expecting that for October, but it looks like that's going to be pushing into November now, as we have just traded sideways here. One of the key things that we're waiting for is to start to see all of those projects actually launch on the ecosystem with the ERC20 converter, to see how many projects actually end up migrating across or just even building on the Cardano ecosystem from the Ethereum system, because ultimately Solidity has problems, as indicated with Dr. Ben Gsell with our interview on SingularityNet. So if you want to know more about the differences between Haskell and everything that's going on with Cardano and Ethereum Solidity, that interview is very, very insightful. Right. So obviously, let's talk about the price action here for a moment on this daily chart. We can obviously see that we are making pretty good progress towards our targets here. And what we are actually looking at are these impulsive waves within our within our fifth wave to the upside, right? So we started off nicely. We set a new all-time high of $3.10. We pulled back, okay, with our second wave, and now what we're looking to try to do is push up with, of course, our third wave into the fourth and then into the fifth, okay? And so what we're really looking at are these impulsive moves and these corrective moves. So when we actually take a look at where we are right now, we actually grab a hold of an ABC correction. We can see that we had an A, we had a B, and then we had a C. So that got completed right there with an ABC correction within this fifth wave to the upside. Now then we started trading sideways whilst we coiled the spring ready for a move to the upside. Now, right now, what's actually been happening here is a bit of a triangular wedge. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump down into the hourly, and I'm going to review that in a moment. But basically, the point of what I'm trying to make here is nothing moves in straight lines, as indicated. We are in the fifth impulsive wave to the upside on the big picture on that weekly chart. Inside that fifth wave, there are 5 impulse waves. We've just experienced the second wave correction, okay, and now we're looking to go into the third wave push to the upside, which will be very, very significant. It could take us out to some very, very interesting areas. Obviously, we have that $4.40 target, but again, we also have a 200% move based on the trends that we've seen. This could be really interesting. Now, the other thing that we want to look at is basically bring a fib here and take it from our impulsive move to the upside. Actually, if I do it the other way around, bear with me. And we take that $3.10 high and we go ahead and throw on our low area where we actually started that impulsive move. You can see that the 1.618 seems like a pretty plausible area to find some resistance. Now, this area also coincides with our cup and handle prediction of $4.40. This actually comes in at $4.38. So we could actually start to see a good impulsive move to the upside with wave 3, actually just coming in short of that area there and actually coming back down into this, $4.38 zone, or $4.40 to be more exact, right? So we have that impulsive wave 1, impulsive wave 2, or corrective wave 2, impulsive wave 3, then 4, then 5. Now, what's a bit odd about this is normally we would see that this third wave would be a little bit higher. So we might overwick it and then come back down and then basically grow longer. What we want to see is this third wave being potentially the biggest wave. It cannot be the shortest wave. So we want to make sure that we basically adhere to the impulsive wave move to the upside. Okay, at this point, we're going to jump over to the advice.io dashboard and start talking about that artificial intelligence and machine learning and what it is indicating for Cardano. For those people who are unfamiliar, there's a link in the description down below. It's completely free to sign up. Check it out and you won't be disappointed. You get a lot more insight from advice.io than potentially you do from the charts. With that being said, once you've signed up to advice.io, you actually have TradingView built directly in here, so you can do all your charting directly on the platform. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Cardano in some detail here. We have a B3 rating overall, which means we're just in that neutral position before dropping down into the lower set, which means there are problems with Cardano. But again, this is just sentiment-based problems, I believe. As we come down here, we can get a little bit more insight into what is going on. Here we have a fear and greed index that is a rating of D. That is indicating to us that there is extreme fear right now for Cardano. I think a lot of this actually comes down to frustrations. People are expecting those smart contracts to launch and then instantaneously have projects launch on the ecosystem with instantaneous transactional volume. It doesn't work that way. It takes time to develop and actually test all of these dApps before launching them. And of course, you launch them, then you've got to market them, and then you've got to get people to actually start using these apps to actually build that transactional volume. Now, that transactional volume is really important because that is where ADA actually comes in to actually start to get utilized in a really powerful way. The more ADA, or the more transactions, the more ADA is going to be needed. The more ADA that is needed, it increases the demand. With a squeeze on the supply through delegation and over 70% of the supply actually delegated, this is a huge impact potentially on the supply-demand factors that could see ADA absolutely skyrocket, which is why we really focus in on that transactional volume right now. So with extreme fear in the space, this is down to frustration, I believe, more than anything else. And as a result of that, people are more willing to sell than to buy. But what we can do is obviously use this information to our advantage, specifically when we take a look at the Sharpe ratio. The Sharpe ratio is your risk-reward ratio. And the risk-reward ratio right now from this artificial intelligence and machine learning of advice.io is indicating to us that actually the rewards outweigh the risks, and therefore we might want exposure to ADA. So when we actually take these two things side by side, we have an unnecessary amount of fear and basically people willing to sell ADA at a discounted rate, i.e. around that $2.15 level. And then we have, on the flip of that, the artificial intelligence saying, actually, things are looking pretty good for Cardano. You might want some exposure to it because things are going to get, pretty good longer term. So actually, these two things actually help us understand what kind of fear we want to buy and what kind of fear we don't want to buy. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. Chris is not a financial advisor. And advice.io are not helping you with buy and sell signals, but they are giving you the information and the tools to help you make informed decisions. So guys, I do seriously recommend checking out advice.io. I don't think you'll regret it. So right now, this is indicating to me that I might want to buy up some fear in relation to ADA. As we come on down, we can see that the problems are compounded here when it comes to Cardano. We have an 𝗕𝗓𝗪 ratio that's a C2. So again, that liquidity problem still persists. It is still there. Basically, buying and selling ADA has become problematic. And again, that actually aids in trading sideways, or really compounds the fear in the space if people are finding it very difficult to actually sell ADA. So right now, that's a problem that's been plaguing for a few weeks, and why we're seeing this sideways trade prolonged, right? We obviously saw Bitcoin move up massively, but again, with liquidity-based problems, this becomes an issue to allow Cardano to actually grow with it. So again, you could speculate to the cows come home as to why there are problems here with that liquidity. Is it centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges? Is there some form of manipulation going on in the background? You can speculate on that until the end of the day. But ultimately, for me, it's just good to know that there are problems there, and we can acknowledge it and move on and deal with it accordingly. Okay, we can also see that the moving averages have been affected with that sideways trade. Okay, so again, that's been affected from a rating perspective at C2. But again, I think the moving averages is just more of a minor issue. Longer term, it's less relevant, specifically as we're in an impulsive wave to the upside. The profitability down here is an A1. As I said earlier in the video, right? Cardano has been incredibly profitable, more profitable than Bitcoin and Ethereum combined, right? So it's important that we obviously acknowledge that it has been very, very profitable. Not the best profitability, because obviously that lies with other altcoins in our portfolio like Matic, Anchor, One, VeChain, right? Those have performed much better than Cardano at the moment. That being said, by the end of the bull run, things could change dramatically. Overall, there's not that many positive things in the underlying data. It's important that we acknowledge this. For me, however, I think there's a couple of key takeaways from the advice.io dashboard today, and that is there is fear in the space that you might want to buy because we have a Sharpe ratio that is indicating long-term value potentially on the horizon, and it's good to know that there are problems with liquidity and the profitability is looking good. Okay, but otherwise, it's important that we acknowledge that there is unreasonable fear in the space, so do expect volatility, and of course those moving averages have been affected with liquidity-based problems. So ultimately, it's good to know these things, and it's good to know that we actually have a Sharpe ratio that's working for us and not against us right now. So when we come back to the charts and we understand why we're trading sideways in the way that we are, it's good to understand that ultimately this is through basically liquidity-based problems and an unreasonable amount of frustration and fear in the space for Cardano. So when we jump down into our hourly view, we actually start to review exactly what's going on. We had this triangular wedge that we were tracking, and then we broke through when Bitcoin had its tear to the upside, right? We obviously are in an overbought area, so we are expecting that volatility and that fear to succumb and pull us back into this triangle, okay? And again, that would bring us below the $2.15 briefly before we start to move back to the upside. Overall, though, these are the micro movements on the chart, and we can obviously see that ABC correction coming in here, and what we're looking for now is a nice continued growth to the upside. And if we actually take a look at this from, it's a wave 2, so we can't really say that it's a triangle for Elliott waves. But everything's looking like it's getting ready for a big move to the upside. But we need to get past that liquidity-based problem, and we also need to get past the problems that we have here with that fear and that sentiment. I think we are only weeks away from some absolutely crazy moves to the upside once we start to see some dApps actually launch on this ecosystem with some serious transactional volume. By the end of the bull run, I think that Cardano is going to be one of the key players in the space that has performed the best overall. Guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found it useful and informative, then do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.